Okay, good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us this morning. My name is Patty Urena, and I am the Coordinator of Education and Outreach for Achieva Family Trust. Welcome to our first webinar of the new year. We have over 200 people registered for this event, so we're really excited to have all of you here. Obviously, this is a really important topic, and we have an amazing panel of experts this morning that all have a lot of good information to share. Before we get started, though, I do have a couple of housekeeping items. Each moderator will have time at the end of their presentations for some question and answer. So please put your questions in the Q&A box, and we will monitor that and direct the questions to the presenter. Hopefully, if we don't get to all of them at the end of each segment, if we have time at the end, we will try and get to them at that point as well. This webinar will be recorded and put on our website, hopefully by the end of the week, for you to go back and view, or if you know anyone that might be interested in, to share with them. So it will be on our website. If any of you need confirmation of attendance, please just shoot me an email. My contact information is up there. I'm Patty, and I can email you confirmation of your attendance for today's webinar. At this time, I'd like to thank my colleagues, Nancy McMillan and Laurie Zala, for their help in coordinating this program and in bringing in these speakers, and Ryan Jackson from our IT department, who's been very helpful in getting this platform set up for us. It's kind of new for us, so hopefully everything will run smoothly today. So please bear with us if we have a couple hiccups. But at this point, I would like to introduce Dr. Mary Jo Gerchero. She's the director of the Brady Kill Center and Community Training and Development. I'll let her tell you a little bit about herself, and then she can get her portion started. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. As Patty said, I'm Mary Jo Gerchero, and I'm from CCAC. And this morning, I'm going to talk to you about opportunities for people with disabilities here at the Community College of Allegheny County. So let me get you, because everything you need to know is on. Can everybody see my screen? Let me get it, share here. All right, can everybody see the CCAC website? Hearing nothing.
It's up, Mary Jo.
Okay, thank you. So everything that you need to do, you can probably navigate right here on the CCAC website. And I'm going to go over a few things with you today. But before I start that, let me talk a minute about the Office of Vocational Rehabilitation. So OVR, as we say it here in the business, is a state organization that is run on state and federal dollars. And what OVR does is they help students or individuals who need assistance, whether it's an accommodation or some dollars, in order for them to become competitively employed. And once they're competitively employed and they need some accommodation, OVR can help and assist with that. And I believe Patty at some point is going to put the OVR information in the chat. But if
we did put a link in the chat box, Mary Jo.
Okay, thanks.
Access to
so that. OVR is very important to you. And the other important organization is the Department of Human Services. And again, for funding, whether it's a waiver program, they and it has all acronyms, but there's the family-driven waiver and the what we call Title 19. So those are funds that could be available to you to help support an individual with disabilities as they go from school to work, or in some cases from work and they don't have that job anymore and are looking to seek employment, perhaps in another career, another field. So OVR can be very helpful. But let's talk a little bit about CCAC. Okay, so I've been at CCAC for a very long time. I know I don't, I started when I was 12, and so I've been here for, this is going to be my 37th year. And during that time, I have always worked with people with disabilities here at the college. So we've created some really cool programs for people who need employment. So on our website, there's usually 2 or 3 ways to get to where you need to go. But I'm going to take you down here, and I'm going to take you to special needs population. Now, we have continuing education programs for people with disabilities. Now, these are vocational recreation programs. And typically on a Friday night at about 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, our transition folks, no one's knocking on the door and saying, hey, let's go down the street and get a pizza and beer, right? So what the community college tries to do is create classes and activities that will get like groups together to share experiences and to develop friendships. So we have what we call continuing education for special needs adults. And during the pandemic, this is a very light schedule, just because in order for us to bring a bunch of people, 10, 12 people, to an activity like Dave and Buster's or a meal matinee, or to do some sort of community, the aviary, those kinds of things, a baseball game, the things that we do was horrible during pandemic time. And it's still a little bit ugly. But what we did do here, and then so if you just go to the bottom, like I showed you, special populations, and you click on, this is the registration. Oh God, click the wrong one. All right, if you click the calendar, it gives you all the activities that we're going to be doing through June. And, you know, come June, we'll put another one out that'll go June, July, and August. And then, around middle of August, we'll put one out for the fall session. So it tells you where it is, the name of it, how much it costs. Some are multi, like you see here, Jazzy Jewelry goes for 3 sessions. So, you want to, look at this calendar. And if there's something that you would like to attend, or your loved one would like to attend, or if you have responsibility for clients, you can browse this with them. And if they don't have access to a computer, I will make sure that you have my contact information, and we will send you a hard copy of this. And again, if you find something that you like, click on that registration form. And if you don't like using the postal mail, you click that on, and there is a number there where you could call and give your credit or debit card. So this is kind of the fun stuff at CCAC. So, you might want to think about that. The other programs that we have, and I want to talk to you about, are our career training programs. Now, these are programs that are 2 academic semesters or 30 weeks, because each academic semester is 15 weeks. And so a person can start either in August or in January. So if someone starts in August, they will graduate at the CCAC commencement. They will be there. Last 2 years, it was virtually. We're hoping that this year it will be in person. But they will be at the graduation, at the CCAC graduation in May. And if they start in January, they will graduate that following December. And again, they can walk commencement that following May. So the programs that we have currently are our environmental services janitorial program, our food service, and our indoor-outdoor building maintenance. I am in the process, because the state is always changing things. So probably next year at this time, our nursing assistant training program will be back up and running. So each of these programs are at our North Campus or a North Campus off-site. And you say, holy crap, where's North Campus? It's in McCandless. However, we understand transportation is an issue. So we subcontract with a bus company. And so if the if the student can get downtown to the convention center, we have them get on that shuttle bus and we take them to and from every day. So classes are Monday through Thursday from 8:30 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. So if someone's down to the convention center by 7:45, they could jump on that shuttle. We take them out, and at about 2:40, 2:30, 2:40, they get back on that shuttle and we take them into town. So depending, our food service program, we actually run a business. We offer a full serve lunch to the cadets and all the administrative people that are out at the North Park Police and Fire Academy. So our students do everything from scratch. Like if someone wants, a cheeseburger, we don't go into the freezer, pull out a frozen patty out of a box and throw it, on the grill. These students actually work with the ground meat. They prepare it and prepare the hamburger. So everything is fresh. Again, if someone wants soups, we have a soup of the day. That soup is made from scratch. So everything that the students do, they learn the skill sets: knives, measuring, cutting, weighing, and preparing and serving. So they learn that. So from dishwashing all the way up to line cook, depending on the person's abilities, is where they'll find a job. So again, these programs prepare folks for competitive work. So when they get to their second semester, we give them a practicum, and hopefully that practicum is where they will be hired. And again, we try to personalize that placement. We don't believe people should be on a bus for 2 hours to get to work, right? So we work with people. What is in your neighborhood? What is on the bus line? Where can you get to? Those kinds of things. So they're all structured the same. They all have, first semester, second semester, 4 to 6 weeks into the second semester, they will go out on a practicum that could be at 4 to 6 weeks. It could be a paid practicum, it could be an unpaid practicum. It just depends on the employer and the individual. So again, our environmental services janitorial program is at our North Campus. So our students get theory and then they do their hands-on practice actually at the campus. They clean the bathrooms, they do burnishing and buffing and stripping of floors, waxing of floors, full room care. And all of the subject matter is on each of the programs brochure. So if you click on that, you will find what each of the curriculum are for each program. Indoor outdoor building, that, as I said, the environmental janitorial is at North Campus. Food service is at the Police and Fire Academy. The indoor outdoor building maintenance program is at a 13-acre greenhouse in Franklin Park called the Sewickley Creek Greenhouse. And so they're learning how to pinch and prune and promenade. And they also learn grass cutting and weeding and all of the stuff that you need to do outdoor. And that's salting and shoveling also, because in the winters, that's what you do, at least in Pittsburgh. And then when they're done, they go out, or in their second semester, they too go to a practical. They also learn indoor skills, how to paint a room, how to mask a room, tape it up, how to use hand tools, saws, and they make some wood products and sell them. They've made key racks. They've made Halloween ghosts and goblins out of old pallets. So there's a lot of creativity done there. And then when we reopen our nursing assistant program, that is a bona fide state approved nursing assistant program. And our students learn theory, and there's 52 skills that they must know, because in their second semester, they do their clinical, And currently our clinical is at the Ross Kane, although we've used the McKeesport. Because of this pandemic, it has been a little crazy finding hospitals and long-term care where we can get in and do the practical. So when the students are done with their theory and their clinical, our North Campus lab, nursing lab, is state approved. And so the students take their certification, both written and practical, right there at North Campus, so they don't have to go elsewhere to get their certification. Now, if a person needs the test read to them, or they need it in private, or they need headsets, they need an extended time, all of those things can happen. We just write to the state and we get the accommodation for the students. So, like I said, these programs have the same, 2 academic semesters. They all have a practicum or a clinical. And then the idea is at the end that they will actually be in competitive employment. Now, that competitive employment can be full or part-time, depending on the person. Some people need to start part-time to build up their stamina. So they may start part-time if that's their wish and move into full-time. So we really look at the individual and their needs. But the most important thing is that it is competitive employment at the end of the training. And we as a staff secure with the individual and input from their families, the place of employment. Now, as I said, these folks come to the training Monday through Thursday from 8:30. They have to be ready to roll at 8:30 and they are done at 2:30. And then Fridays, they come from 9 a.m. to noon. And again, this is preparing them with stamina, abilities, multitasking, so that they are actually ready for that competitive employment afterwards. These are, like I said, really world work, everyday work that we have students do. They're at the Police and Fire Academy, so they're preparing lunch. They're at that 13-acre greenhouse. So right now they're actually getting ready and doing little seedlings for spring. And it's a beautiful greenhouse. If anybody has an opportunity and is near the Franklin Park area, please stop by. It's an awesome, awesome greenhouse, especially in the spring. So many colors. It's just gorgeous. And again, our nursing assistant. Now, as you probably know, with the great resignation and the great boomers retiring at, $65,000 a day, there is a great opportunity now for folks with disabilities to get employment. 5-6 years ago, we were competing with, folks with, traditional folks with degrees. And now people with disabilities are the people that want to work today. So jobs are plentiful right now. No one should have a really a difficult time getting a job. Our students have choices now. It's actually a wonderful time for individuals to have that opportunity to work. Now, those are the particular programs that are our vocational programs that are specifically designed for people with disabilities. Now, again, depending on the disability, if you're in a chair, you might have a little bit of a difficult time, not impossible, but in food service, janitorial might be a little tough. Indoor, outdoor might be, but there are some greenhouses where, you might just be able to plant all day and prune and water. So some of that can happen. People with visual disabilities, again, we've had people with hearing disabilities actually become a certified nurse assistant. So it just depends on the individual and what they're able and willing to do with some accommodations. So let me take a minute now to talk about CCAC's traditional associate degrees, certificates, and diplomas. So CCAC is an open mission college. And what that means is that anybody who applies is accepted. And what we do is if someone takes the SATs, we will accept those. However, if we have folks, and a lot of our folks with disabilities do not take the SATs, we at the college do a placement test. And the placement test is on reading and mathematics. And so if the student is not ready for that college level class, CCAC will require, depending on that test score, for the student to take, for instance, in reading, if they're not up to the college level, which is the 12th grade reading level to comprehend the textbooks, we have college reading 1 and college reading 2. Again, these aren't credits that transfer to another institution, but actually prepare students to be successful in the traditional college classes. And then with the reading, it will tell us whether they need some English help with the grammar and those kinds of things. So what we have is we call English 101 with a lab. And that helps students, they would go to a writing lab and learn the grammar and punctuation and sentence structure so that when they go to the full English 101, they will be successful. So a person would take, we have college reading 1, college reading 2, English 101 lab, and then in mathematics, we have fundamentals of arithmetic. And that's typically starting people at that 4th and 5th grade, adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing, and then, fractions. And then if they test a little higher, then perhaps they might just need what we call fundamentals of algebra. That's your 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th grade algebra. And that gets the students ready for one of the college maths that they may need to take given their course of study. Typically, most of the course of studies require what's called Math 108 Intermediate Algebra, which assumes that you've had Algebra 1, Algebra 2, and possibly Algebra 3 in high school. So the person would take that placement test, and then they would be, put into those classes if they need them. If not, they would go right into the traditional, whether they wanted nursing, whether they wanted early childhood education, whether they wanted social work, whether they wanted auto mechanics, because we have tons and tons of, the union type jobs, plumbing, automotive, welding, mechatronics. That's the fancy new name for manufacturing using computers. And then we have computer, so we have 170 different degrees an individual or diploma a person can get. And we have the allied healths. We have OT, occupational therapy, physical therapy, radiology, sonograms, all those allied healths we have. They're primarily at our Boyce and Allegheny campuses. So let's just say that, you want to try a traditional program. Each of our campuses have what we call supportive services. So if an individual, because at the community college, at most colleges, they do not adjust the curriculum. That happens in K through 12. But as soon as you leave high school, many of the entitlements go away. But by law, colleges, universities must have a supportive service office. And so each campus, as I said, has a supportive service office. So the individual, once they register, once they do the application and they know they have a disability, they will reach out to the supportive services office, and with their documentation, those accommodations can be made. Now, some of the accommodations might be extended test time, time and a half, 2 times, doing it in a secluded environment. So we have testing booths at our supportive services. They may get a note taker, so they'll get someone in the room to, you know, who's really good at note taking, take those notes and share them with the person that needs that assistance. So there's those types of accommodations for individuals. But again, the most important thing that you need to know here is that the curriculum is not adjusted due to a person's disability. If, you know, they read the textbook. Now, in our supportive services, we have software which is called Kurzweil. So it's supportive services, they upload the book for the student, and then this Kurzweil will actually read out loud. Well, if you hover over the word, it'll give you the definition. It highlights. It's an awesome piece of software, if you haven't seen it yet, that really helps our students with disabilities, especially those with learning disabilities. So there's, you know, lots and lots of services for them. We also have tutoring in all subject areas. They are typically professional tutors. We do have peer tutors. So, and again, those are all free to the students. We have learning assistance labs. We have math cafes where a student can go and there are peers there and tutors that will help students if they, you know, need some help in that math concept that they're struggling with. Math cafes are virtual in some places right now, and in some places they have limited hours. We're hoping in the near future that it will begin to expand. Also, the Voc Ed programs are all in person. So there's nothing online with those, unless a person comes down with COVID and they're not allowed in, they can join us remotely. But other than that, because they are hands-on programs, they are not virtual or remote. So with the credit programs, there's different modalities. Because of the pandemic, in March 2020, we had to close down, and we made our semester break earlier. It was supposed to be the following week. We made it that week. And then every teacher turned their classroom into a virtual classroom. We use Blackboard and Zoom as our modality. So there's various ways a student could take classes here. Fully in person, fully online, where there is no teacher to be seen, but all of you, if you're like a self-learner. So it's totally online. Then we have a hybrid where it's in person and online, and then or remote. And then we have a hybrid where it's remote and online. So depending on the person's needs, wishes, learning styles, there are options for them. Because a lot of people can't learn in a virtual environment. We've seen the statistics on that in our K through 12 system, where students just weren't getting what they needed remotely. So, but then we had other students who thrived in a remote environment. So it just depends on the individual and what their needs are. Now, if you're going to the traditional classes and you need financial assistance, we can help. We have financial aid offices where the financial aid counselors can help the individual fill out their FAFSA. F as in Frank, A as in Anthony, F as in Frank, S as in Sam, A as in Anthony.gov. And that will allow the person, if they're adjudicated, it's based on their income. If they live with a family, it's their income and the families, or just the families if the individual doesn't work. And typically in the community colleges, 90% of our students get financial aid. And currently the distribution for Pell and FIA, I think Pell is, don't quote me on this, but it's close to $4,800 a year. And for FIA, it is about $4,200 a year. So that almost $9,000 a year is certainly enough for the person to get their education. If they get full, if they're deemed to get full financial aid, it will pay for all their classes, tuition and fees, and it will pay for their books. And actually there should be a few dollars left that the student will get about 30 to 45 days after classes start. And that money is a check that comes to them or deposited to their account. We ask everybody to have a checking account. And there they can use that additional money for lunch money, bus passes, whatever they need. And in the traditional programs, if a person is taking the remote or online classes and doesn't have a computer, we have a loaner program where the students can loan that laptop for the semester while they're taking classes and to do their homework and all that kind of stuff, to get to the virtual tutors if that works for their schedule, any of the virtual services, even advising is virtual these days. So, you know, there's lots and lots and lots of opportunities here for the individual, and I'm at my time limit. So can I answer any questions?
Yes, we do have a couple questions for you.
Okay.
So, our first question came from Beth, and it says, we live in Beaver County. Can we still apply to CCAC or VR?
If you're in Beaver County and you're using OVR funds, which I would suggest that we do, then there is not the double tuition. However, if you're going to our traditional programs and you want to come to CCAC traditional programs, it will be double tuition unless that community college doesn't have a program that we offer. Did I explain that rather clearly?
I think so, yes.
Okay.
So our second question is from Adrian, and she says, is the healthcare training program offered?
It will be next year at this time. So the healthcare, what it is our nursing assistant program. In order to be to take the certification test, you have to read and comprehend at the 5th grade level. We have some individuals who want to work with the elderly or long-term care. However, their reading and comprehension level is such that they wouldn't be successful at the test. So in Pennsylvania, you can still work at an assisted living facility and not have to be certified. So yes, we offer it. And so your first semester is very much like the nursing assistant. However, when it comes to the second semester, when the students go to practicum, or when the students go to clinical for nursing assistant, we work with the students to get a practicum in assisted living facility so that they can work there when they graduate. So the long answer, the short answer is yes, next year.
So then we have a question from Leslie, and she is asking what the program's placement rate is.
let me just say it to this way to you. Everybody who wants to work, works. So we, we have some folks that go all the way through it and then they come and say, my family's moving to North Carolina. We can help them get placements down in North Carolina, but we don't know North Carolina. We will help them with make sure that they have their portfolio and stuff. So we're at about a 97% placement, but please know everybody who wants to work gets a job.
And Mary Jo, I think there's one more question that if we could, just give you this one real quickly. Catherine wants to know if you are working, let me just see, sorry. The question just.
Oh, is that the one about community colleges
Yes.
across the state? Says, are you working with any other community colleges across the state for similar programs, or is this for southwest of the state primarily?
Our vocational programs truly are one of a kind. I had the opportunity to go to Oregon to help them set up this program. So we are unique. I don't know of any other. Now, Hiram G, which is an OVR kind of college, they have some of these similar programs, but that is a residential college. We are not. We are not residential. But so, we're not, if you go to Beaver Community College, Butler Community College, Westmoreland, if you go to Philadelphia Community College, you will not see these programs.
Thank you, Mary Jo. And there was just one comment I wanted to share with everyone. Someone noted that, Lisa noted that her son attended CCAC in 2019 and used the program supports. And she just mentioned how good it was for him and assisted him with his epilepsy. And he even played on the baseball team. So I think, to wrap your portion up, Mary Jo, we really are lucky to have community college, to have these services available to individuals with disabilities. So thank you for everything that you do in the community.
And thank you. And I just want to say that, yes, when, your individual, if they want to be in any of the clubs and organizations, that's their right and responsibility. If they want to become, PTK, any of the services for the traditional college, even our supportive, even our voc eds, if someone wants to play in the baseball team, that's fine. The only problem is with clubs and organizations, they usually meet while we're in training. So, but we have the men of merit for African-American males. We have the women on a mission for the African-American females. So
Right.
there's lots and lots of programs. Sorry for taking this, but
Oh, no, that's fantastic, Mary Jo. Thank you.
And let me introduce to you our next speaker, who is Roland Woods. And Roland is the Workforce Development Career Counselor at the University of Pittsburgh. Roland?
Thank you. Roland, I'm just going to pull up your slides real quick. Give me one second. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary Jo. As Mary Jo said, I am the Workforce Development Career Counselor at the University of Pittsburgh, Office of Human Resources. I am filling in for my colleague, Tom Armstrong, who couldn't be here today. So I'm going to highlight and talk about the University of Pittsburgh. But before I do, Tom is the diversity recruiting and transition consultant. Basically, he works with veterans and people with disabilities. And let me highlight what all that means. So Tom does intakes like and he meets with all kinds of people with disabilities, whether it be visual, hearing, wheelchair, paralyzed, permanently disabled from auto accidents, Crohn's disease, autism, depression, anxiety, panic attacks, all kinds of mental health and physical health. I'll give you an example. We have a mutual colleague and she works she's a recruiter, one of the best recruiters at the University of Pittsburgh, and she's legally blind. She used JAWS and she has a guide dog. And we have a disability, as Mary Jo said, we have a disability resource coordinator, a service team, and combination coordinator. So we have a smorgasbord of resources to help people who are veterans and people with disabilities. But lastly, let me just share this with you before I go into the presentation. We can't guarantee you employment, but we can recommend to recruiters, to hiring managers for at least an interview. Okay. So a little bit about the University of Pittsburgh. Patty, you can hit the slide. The university was founded in 1787. Just so you know, we're in the midst of updating our slide deck. So forgive us because it still says 2020. It should say 2022. So forgive us. We are the third most livable city in the U.S., 19th best public university in the U.S. Some of these things probably have changed, hopefully for the better. The seventh best city to launch a career. We have technically, I would say over 8,000 full and part-time staff now, and over 5,500 full and part-time faculty. And in 2020, we had over 1,000 people. And when you look on our website, you'll see that we post a ton of jobs, a lot of jobs daily. And it's not necessarily because of turnover. Some people move on for better paying jobs. Some people like to move up, or some people move laterally. Okay. And just so you know, as of March 1st, this is a really, really big announcement that they made at the university. You only have to be in a full-time position for 6 months, one provisional period, depending on your position, for 6 months before you can apply for another full-time job at the university. It used to be, if you're a staff person, you had to go through 2 provisional periods, which is 1 year. So if you work at the university 6 months and you decide, hey, I want to work another position, you could do that after 6 months. We have 33,000 undergraduate, graduate, and doctorate students. #1 best public university in Northeast US. And we have regional campuses throughout Western PA. Next slide. All right, so why should you work at Pitt? Pitt's history has 4 successful researchers, administrators, scientists, groundskeepers, athletes, doctors, and more who have all made the university the internationally recognized institution it is today. Pitt's programs and departments are often recognized for their excellence in research, program initiatives, and engagement every member of the community can contribute. The Pittsburgh campus and each of the regional campuses are all full of welcoming communities and vibrant cities. Pitt promotes the development of your professional and personal life through a variety of available programs, workshops, and opportunities. Our benefits are some of the best and most competitive in the nation. I'll tell you about that in a second. Next slide. So we talk about the benefits, and I always get excited when we talk about these benefits. Pitt is dedicated to creating an exceptional employee experience for every facet of your professional and personal life, aka our benefits help you thrive. Medical, dental, vision coverage, flexible spending accounts, paid parental leave, free on-site health clinic, basic life insurance, long-term coverage, personalized services and consultation, educational benefits, 97% coverage of staff, 100% undergraduate tuition campus for dependents, 90% tuition coverage for spouse domestic partners, paid holidays, recess days, vacation, personal sick time, retirement savings, 100% matching up to 8% salary, 150% match after 3 years of employment up to 8% salary. I really like to highlight these things. Free Port Authority transportation. So that means that if you are a full-time employee at the University of Pittsburgh, full-time staff employee, you automatically have a free Connect card, which is Port Authority Transit throughout Allegheny County. Okay. Free online courses through lynda.com, discounts on shopping services, other volunteer benefits. But before we go to the next slide, just highlight these things. So that means if you haven't completed a degree or you're interested in completing a degree, you could do so tuition free. If your spouse or domestic partner wishes to go to school, to university, they can at least get a bachelor's. You can get a bachelor's, master's, and even a doctorate. But your children or your domestic partner, husband or wife, they can only get a bachelor's, okay? But the other pieces I was saying is the transportation, the Port Authority, which is a great benefit because it saves you $100 a month, and then a retirement. All right, next slide. All right, so opportunities that fit your skill set. Opportunities are available on each Pitt's campus for individuals with all levels of experience and education, all types of positions, including faculty, adjunct professor, assistant professor, full-time professor, you name it, there's opportunities available. Staff positions. Those staff positions include anything in financial aid office, to maintenance, to accounting, to advisor. union positions, carpenters, electricians, but you have to go through your union in order to apply for a job at the university when it comes to union jobs. We have student employment. I just met one young lady who was hired as a student employee at the university, and she's working on a database for the university. And she is a sophomore, I believe, at the University of Pittsburgh. We have temporary employment. This is the best way for you. If you don't have a whole lot of experience, this is the best way for you to get into the University of Pittsburgh, and that is temporary employment, which means that you can be in a position that lasts 3 months, 6 months, but it's a perfect way for you to get started working at Pitt and then meet individuals who can vouch for you, and you can use as reference points for other positions at the University. Then we have obviously research positions. Next slide. Preparing to apply for the position. All available positions at Pitt can be reviewed online through Talent Center, the university online employment system, www.join.pitt.edu. That is the place to go when you are looking for employment at the University of Pittsburgh. And once you do that, from the find positions, the drop-down menu, it'll be on the next slide. At the top of www.join.pitt.edu, select the position type in which you are most interested: staff, faculty, temporary. Tips when searching available opportunities. Search for position by using key search or using filter options. Review the minimum requirement education and experience levels for each position. Review the required preferred documents for each position. May include adding a cover letter, writing sample, or other work to the application. So in other words, at the very bottom of that job description, it's going to tell you whether it's full-time, it's going to tell you what kind of document you need with the application. So make sure, sometimes you need a resume, sometimes you need a resume and a cover letter, sometimes you need a resume, cover letter, and a writing sample. So pay particular attention to that, so your application can be valid, okay? Have your resume ready. Talent Center offers resume parsing to make applying simple and convenient. Next slide. Where do you go? Here we go. Ready to launch your career? So first thing you need to do, if you're interested in working at the University of Pittsburgh, is go to www.join.pitt.edu. As soon as you do that, you're going to get a drop down. You got to click where it says find positions. And under where it says Talent Center, careers at Pitt, there's going to be staff, faculty, temporary student, and current employee position. You click on the one that applies to you, and you then begin the process of making sure that you have the background and you have the experiences and educational background to match the job description. Okay. Next slide. All right, so applying for a position, visit www.join.pitt.edu from your desktop, mobile device, or tablet. Create an account. So you're going to have to create an account. And I'm being honest with you, this process can be a little extensive sometimes, especially if you don't have the navigational skills. But it's once you do it once, you're fine. Okay, you got to create an account or log in by navigating the sign in button on the right side by clicking on the apply button on any position. So once you click on the apply button, it's going to ask you, you have an account. You're going to say, no, I don't have an account. And you're going to create an account. You can create a username and password, and it's going to ask you for obviously your email, and then you sign in. You must have an account in Talent Center with a valid email address to apply to a position. Complete your profile either by using resume parsing feature or by filling out fields manually. Completing your profile makes applying for a position easier. Once you have applied for a position, going forward, every time you want to apply for a position, you don't have to go through the 13 steps like you originally did to create your profile. But you do have to, every time you apply for a position, you do have to go through some steps, okay? Completing your profile makes applying for positions easier. It'll automatically fill in the numbers and fields for you. So in other words, you won't have to go through all the information like you did the first time once you apply for one position. You can apply for as many positions as you would like. I encourage people, just so you know, if you have, and I know everybody on the call have applied for positions before, and sometimes you hear back from people, sometimes you don't. More than likely, if you haven't heard back from an employer, it may be because you really need to pay particular attention to the job description and education requirements. You must make sure, and I'll highlight a little more in some few further slides, you must make sure that you have some similar language as the job description. You have to have some keywords on your resume and cover letter. However, each job will require a separate application, as job posting may require Position-specific questions or required documents. Next slide. Next slide. All right, so applying for a position, applications are only accepted electronic. So sorry to say, but everything, if you want to work at the University of Pittsburgh, unfortunately, you got to do it electronically. Talent Center is ADA compliant and works with assistant technology. If you needed access to a computer or assistance in submitting your application, Pittsburgh Human Resource Office computer kiosks. Right now, they don't because of COVID, whatnot, but we have I'm working out of a community engagement center in the Hill District, which is a branch of the University of Pittsburgh. There's one in the Hill and there's one in Homewood. These facilities are utilized for meeting spaces, and they also have computer labs. So if just so happen if you, or I recommend you going to a library, one of the Carnegie libraries, if you don't have a tablet or if you don't have a desktop or laptop. Need help creating an account or applying, you can go to pitworks.pitt.edu, Talent Center, applicants for guides and videos. All right, next slide. All right, this is the meat and potatoes, ladies and gentlemen. So I just want to highlight these things that are really, really critical. Resume, chronological resume highlights your previous experience, starting with the most recent. Functional resume presents your experience under skill heading, prioritize, your accomplishment by impact instead of time. Combination resume generally starts as functional, then details and pull them chronologically. So I'm recommending and encourage each of you, if you want to work at the University of Pittsburgh, but just you want a job in general, their resume really has to be fluid. And that means it has to tell a story about who you are. Where did you work? What was your position? How long you worked there? And fill in that information. Be detailed about what it is that you did in each position, okay? I don't care if it's 20 years ago, it may be relevant experience, although it may be 20 years ago. So I don't want to, there's no such thing as, okay, a one page resume, 2 page. If your resume is 3 pages and you have 3 pages of information, it's 3 pages of information. We do not discriminate because your resume is 3 pages. So I just want to make sure that you highlight everything that you have done in your career, okay? Everything from the positions that you have worked in, employment, everything, also summary of skills, things that may stand out, that may help you with your application for employment at the University of Pittsburgh, but just in general. Make sure you have another set of eyeballs to look at your resume. I'm always like to make sure I emphasize the individuals that sometimes you might not be good at editing your resume, but have another person look at it, or even go to a one of the workforce development organizations and throughout one of your communities, or if you're working with a career navigator, have them look at your resume, because you want to tell a story, but you want it to be accurate and you want to make it simplistic so employers can look at it and say, hey, I get it. This is Jane Doe, and Jane Doe worked at this place this amount of time. This is what they did, etc. Cover letter tells a story about who you are. Make the connection. Why are you a fit for this position? Make it specific to the position or job post. Do not use one standard cover letter for all your applications. Demonstrate your knowledge of the department and program. Answer their needs. Show, don't just tell. So you might need a couple resumes. For example, if you're in accounting and you were in nursing, there's 2 different fields. So you might want to have, I apologize, I'm in a workspace where there's other programs going on. So if you hear noise in the background, my apologies. So you might want to have more than one resume, where one resume may focus on all your accounting because you've done a lot of stuff in accounting, but you also have information about nursing. But the focal point is accounting, vice versa. Okay. If it's nursing, cover letter, make sure you have a couple cover letters, and basically tells a story about, it's an introduction to who you are. First paragraph talks about, highlights why you're applying for the position. Second paragraph talk about all your experiences, what you bring to the table. And the third paragraph pretty much highlights and says, hey, I'm looking forward to meeting you so I can discuss why I'm a viable candidate for this position. Okay. Proofread, carefully proofread your resume, cover letter, and application. Check for typo. Nowadays, you have spell check and so forth. So there really is no reason why we have errors like we used to when we didn't have these kind of software applications on our computer or desktops. Check for typographical and grammatical errors. Read each document backwards to catch typos or spelling errors. Have someone else read it. They may find something you missed. Next slide. All right, so navigating your application. Talent Center. I'm just checking my time here. Okay, I'm good on time. Your application moves entirely online through Talent Center. When you apply for a job, it goes to, University of Pittsburgh is a very, very large institution. And so when you apply for a job, we have a computer generated system that receives your application and it looks and sees, okay, does this person have what we're looking for based on this job description? As your application is being considered, you will be able to see a variety of real-time notification status. So if you're interested, you're going to be contacted by a recruiter. Excuse me, if the university is interested in you, you'll be contacted by a recruiter. View and edit your application easily by selecting My Job page, okay? Review the status of your application under submission status via My Job page. If you selected for an interview or ultimately a position, university representative will contact you. So it's basically be a recruiter who you're going to have dialogue with, okay? Next slide. All right, so I really like to hone in on this. This is really, really important, ladies and gentlemen. Interviewing for a position, University of Pittsburgh. Employers and candidates each have individual objectives in their interview. Employer, is this the most suitable candidate for us? Candidate, is this the right position or environment for me? So it got to be a win-win. What do you bring to the table, and can we utilize this person? Okay. Generally, two types of interviews and interview questioning. Just so you know, there's a traditional and then there's behavioral. Just real quick. There's the educational training experience, knowledge, skills, abilities, specific function, technical skills. FYI, so basically a traditional question. So tell me a little bit about yourself, which is typical. But at the university, just so you know, and going forward with other positions you may apply for, other jobs, this is what they call a behavioral question. And employers are looking just to see what kind of candidate we are dealing with, okay? And behavioral question can be as far as, depending on the position you apply for, may ask you some behavioral questions. Then other positions may not ask you a behavioral question. So just to give you a typical question, it may be something along the lines of, tell me about an incident that occurred between you and a coworker. How did you handle it? So what is the university looking for in interviews? Short, to the point stories, okay? Not long, drawn out conversations, because remember, you only have 30 to 45 minutes for that interview. There's probably someone going to interview after you, someone interview before you. So I'm just trying to brace you for, so look online, you can Google, you can go to Indeed, typical behavioral questions, and practice. And everybody's worked long enough where you've had some experiences where things have occurred. Somebody walked off with a computer, what would you do? So they just want to kind of get a glimpse as to what kind of person am I interviewing? Okay, can I trust them? Do they seem like they're flexible? So anyway, next slide. All right, making the best impression, practice answers to possible questions before the interview. Think of specific past experiences that you have had that you may want to bring up. Bring notes to your interview. It will show that you have prepared in advance. Yes, I very, very, very much encourage you to take notes and bring those notes with you. You might want to use those notes during the interview. And as I said before, you want to make sure that when you do interview, that you have some examples of some incidents and some past experiences that you can share with the employer. And make sure that if you have to, this is one of the things I like to highlight that really helps people. If you need to, write down the interview questions as they're answering, as they're asking them. And the reason is sometimes you might get a question, there may be 3 parts to the question. So I remember one time I was on an interview, and by the time it got to part 1C, I was like, oh my God, what was C? I answered the first part and I thought I answered the second part. And then I didn't want to make it sound like I wasn't smart. So I didn't ask about the third part. So write down the questions. That way you can ask to repeat them, or you can write them down. Be specific with your answers, specifically behavioral questioning. Include your specific role, events, place, and time. They want to know. They want to know specifically, how did you handle that situation with your colleague, with your coworker? Did you tell them I'll meet you in the parking lot? Did you say, hey, I waited till I was in a good space. I met with he or she in the cafeteria, and we had a conversation about what occurred, and we worked it out. And I'm going to be mindful of, things that may be interpreted the wrong way going forward. State your actions and reasoning clearly and concisely. Always discuss the result. See, always got to be, okay, what was the end result of the incident, especially if it was positive and tangible. Consider follow-up to the interviewer after you interview. Send a thank you note to anyone whom you have spent 5 minutes or more with. So at the conclusion of the interview, whoever you interview with, it's really necessary for you to follow up with basically an email. Get their email address, get their business card, find out who it is that interviewed you, send them a quick thank you note. Hey, John Doe, I want to thank you for the opportunity to interview earlier today at 12 noon for a position of such and such. Look forward to talking to you in the near future. Bam, send it. Okay. Always let employers know if you are on an active job search campaign. So you can look. There's no hidden agenda. Everybody knows we're all looking for jobs. Okay. I mean, more than likely, if you interview for a position, more than likely you obviously have applications elsewhere. So just let the person know, hey, look, I'm interested in this position, but I also have some other positions I'm interested in as well. And I'm hoping that, I'll be offered a position. I can consider it based on weighing some factors. All right, next slide. All right, questions. Discover, belong, contribute, grow, launch your career at University of Pittsburgh. Apply online, www.join.pitt.edu. So anybody have any questions?
Hey, Roland, there was one question. A lot of the steps described in your presentation, which was really had so much good information, but a lot of the steps described may be challenging for people with disabilities. Does Pitt have any kind of initiative for individuals with disabilities?
Yeah, so my colleague Tom, who is not present today, he couldn't be.
I didn't see
he works with individuals with disabilities and veterans. He helps navigate the talent center, in which is a place for you to apply for positions. And we also have an accommodations coordinator. We have disability resources. So we have a team in place that can assist anybody who needs some additional assistance with applying for positions at the University of Pittsburgh. So in other words, the starting point is Tom, and Tom then directs them to the proper office for them to be assisted with applying for position or assistance with overall assistance with the help of working at a university or applying for university.
We're going to pull up Tom's contact information and share it. We'll put it in the chat box.
Okay.
We'll just pull it up and put it in the chat box. So that should be helpful. Hopefully that answered the question. But that looks like it's it. That looks like it's it, Roland, for you. But thank you so much for all of your.
Thank you. I appreciate your time. And I wish you all the very best in your job search. And if something I can do to help as well, feel free to reach out to me.
Okay.
I'll put my contact information in the chat too. If you will, Patty, I appreciate it.
Put your contact. Yeah. Okay. I can put yours in there as well, Roland. I'm just writing myself a note. But again, thank you for your time. Like I mentioned to Mary Jo, we're lucky to have so many good colleges and universities in this great city of Pittsburgh. So thank you again for your time. And I'll go ahead and introduce Adrian since I'm on now, if that's okay, Roland.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Next up is Adrienne Tolentino. She is the Accessibility and Assistive Technology Specialist with Goodwill, Southwestern Pennsylvania.
Hi, thank you. Thank you. Yep, thanks for having me here today. I'm going to pull up my PowerPoint. Okay, so hopefully that's coming up on the screen here for everyone to see.
Yep, it's up. Thank you.
There we go. Okay. As mentioned, my name is Adrienne, and I work at Goodwill of Southwestern Pennsylvania. My title is Accessibility and Assistive Technology Specialist. Now, I know that's a pretty specific title. There's no mention of employment or job or career in my title, which might be a little bit odd. But I will say that for the past 12, 13 years almost, I have acted as Goodwill's accessibility coordinator and also have headed up our assistive technology program. So through that, I've had kind of a unique position of being able to interact with pretty much every department and division within our Goodwill organization. And I'll talk a little bit more about that as we go along here. But first, a quick little intro about Goodwill of Southwestern Pennsylvania. We exist really to help people get to work. Our mission statement, we help people improve their quality of life through work and related services. That's really why Goodwill as an organization began. just before the pandemic, Goodwill of Southwestern Pennsylvania, so the Goodwill in this region, celebrated our 100th anniversary. So for the past 100 years, we've really been laser focused on providing these work and related services. Even before our local Goodwill of Southwestern Pennsylvania was founded, even before then, kind of our parent organization, the original Goodwill was founded in Boston in the late 1800s. You know, the whole premise of that, of their foundation was really providing meaningful work to people in need. Back then, it was a very unique idea to go door to door, ask for donations of clothing and household goods, and then put people to work by processing those goods and reselling them, you know, as refurbished goods. And that's kind of been, you know, the way that we've done business in our stores for the last 100 years. So how do we provide work and related services? Certainly job training, which we will talk about, education services as well, and also job placement. And we'll get more into that as we go along. We do serve youth and adults with disabilities or other barriers. So we do have programs for transition-aged youth, also youth who may not have disabilities, but who are at risk in other ways. Certainly we have different programs for adults with disabilities, but also, and that's the bulk of what I'll be talking about today, but I do want to just really quickly overview that we have many, many other programs and services for individuals with other needs as well. So we do have a variety of programs and services for people who are experiencing homelessness. We do operate a food pantry and a men's shelter in the north side of Pittsburgh. People who have involvement in the legal system and are, you know, reintegrating back into the community. We do have programs and services that are tailored specifically for that population. And really anyone who wants to work. Our doors are open with many different services and programs and ways that people can be involved, whether or not they have a disability. So just you know, really quickly, that's the bulk of who we serve. And again, it could really be anyone who has a desire to get to work or to you know, find a better job, start a career. That's who we want to work with. I'm sure most of you know Goodwill probably best by our thrift stores. And that serves really a big purpose for our job training and human service programs. So about 90 cents of every dollar that our retail system makes goes right back into supporting our training and human service programs. So again, you know, 100 years ago, the premise of, you know, using donated goods, refurbishing them and reselling them, you know, that still continues today. Our stores also, you know, beyond just the revenue that it generates to support our programs, our physical stores also serve as training grounds for lots of our participants, and are also a big source of hiring people who have gone through Goodwill programs as participants. Many times they do end up, you know, being hired as an employee at our stores. And we do have, I would say probably 35 or so stores through the southwestern Pennsylvania area, and also in north central West Virginia as well, is territory that our retail stores cover. So that's a little bit about Goodwill. As I mentioned before, our primary customer is the workforce. So individuals, we are proud to provide person-centered services to people who are seeking jobs or are ready to get to work. So things like our work skills training programs, and specifically for folks who have a disability, we do work with OVR, as was mentioned earlier, as well as the Allegheny County Office of Developmental Programs waiver funding as well. So folks who are connected to those funding sources can come to Goodwill, and we do have a couple different work skills training programs and activities for individuals to do. That includes retail, as well as some placements in our community as well, with some our employer partners to gain other experience in construction and other retail venues as well. Certainly, we have job placement assistance as well. So we do have staff who act as our employment specialists, and they are in the trenches with folks who are looking for jobs. So if an individual is looking to work at Eaton Park, for the 6 to midnight shift, our employment specialists are out there helping them from 6 to midnight. They're out there really helping to ensure that the individuals who are ready to get to work are finding the jobs that that meet their needs and that they're best suited for and best matched with. We also serve the workforce in other ways. So we do provide a variety of job-related skills enhancement services. Our digital skills training programs are really a necessary evil these days. Everything is online now more than ever with the pandemic. So we have our core services department where we have staff dedicated to teaching digital skills. Whether it's from the very basics, computers 101, or navigating or creating an email address so that they can be ready to apply for different jobs online. Or some higher, more advanced digital skills trainings, things like Excel, PowerPoint, those sorts of things. We do offer these classes, and these are open to everyone, whether or not someone has a disability, whether or not someone is tied to a funding source. Anyone who is interested can come through our doors and take advantage of these digital skills services. I believe right now, most of these classes are online. However, I do think that our staff is meeting individually with folks who might need some extra assistance, or they may not have regular access to a computer, that sort of thing. They can come into our digital skills lab and work with our staff in person. Our Career Service Center is another option that's open to anyone, whether or not they have a disability or other barrier. So this really is for folks who, maybe they need a little bit of resume prep or some assistance with interviewing. Our Career Service Center staff, they perform mock interview skills trainings, job search assistance, as I mentioned, resume preparation for folks. They also provide different workshops on a regular basis with some pretty pertinent topics. So things like, how to address a criminal background when applying for jobs. Or I believe there's one that I saw that's, virtual interview etiquette. Since, nowadays things are taking place virtually now more than ever. How do we present ourselves, in that virtual environment? So this Career Service Center, the digital skills trainings, as I mentioned, they're open to everyone, and they really are a great resource for our folks in our disability service programs as well. I know that our employment specialists, take advantage of these resources, just to kind of further equip the individuals that they're working with. So that they can, get the most well-rounded experience to prepare them for going out and applying for and interviewing for the jobs out there. Beyond that, we also do offer English as second language classes. Certainly, language can be a big barrier for folks who are looking for work. So we do offer ESL classes as well as GED or HiSET GED prep classes. When someone is ready to take the GED exam, we do have that as an option in-house at Goodwill, or the HiSET test, which is basically an alternate to the GED exam. It's the high school equivalency test. And again, that can be a big barrier for folks who are looking for work if they don't have their GED or their diploma. We want to make sure that we're equipping people as much as possible so that they can go out and be ready and marketable in the workforce. So something near and dear to my heart, we also offer individuals assistive technology and job accommodation support. So anyone who is attending any Goodwill program, whether that be through our specific disability related programs, if they're coming through OVR or waiver funding, or if they're coming through from anywhere else, if they're just walking into this in from the street and they want to take advantage of our career services or our digital skills, but they might have a disability, I'm there for them. As I mentioned, this type of a support is available to any Goodwill participant. We do have an assistive technology lab in our Workforce Development Center in Lawrenceville. Which is oftentimes where I'll meet with folks. And we have an entire library of different assistive equipment that we can demonstrate, people can try out hands-on. And if we have something that would work for a participant, they can borrow that piece of equipment while they participate in Goodwill's programs for no cost. This little picture here is a smattering of some of our assistive technology equipment that I was showcasing in a little show and tell presentation to some of our clients earlier this year or last year. And also job accommodation support. So if an individual is, doing some work skills training in one of our programs, or getting ready to go out in the community and get a job, I can consult with that individual and their employment specialist and really help figure out what they might need, what might be the best solution for a job accommodation. Which might be specific to the tasks that they're doing or the job that they're being hired for. And again, that's a pretty valuable resource to many of the individuals that we serve. I'm also able to provide assistive technology evaluations for individuals who aren't connected to any Goodwill programs yet, but are coming through with an OVR funding source. So I do get referrals from OVR counselors to complete assistive technology evaluations. And I believe Mary Jo had talked a little bit about this, but oftentimes OVR will refer folks usually who are in the transition age range. Maybe they're just getting ready to end high school and go on to the next step in their lives. OVR can refer them to me and I will do a formal evaluation, really help figure out what they might need in terms of assistive equipment, adaptive software, that sort of thing, so that they can, take classes at CCAC or whatever the next step for them might be. I want to mention here as well, I don't have a little bullet point for this, but Goodwill also does provide a client work supports fund for our current participants. So if, for instance, someone is participating in one of our work skills training programs and they all, suddenly get an interview for a position somewhere, they don't have maybe, the right clothing, we can pay for that pretty quickly. Sometimes with some of the funding sources, that we work with, it might take a little bit of time for people to get what they need. So our client work supports fund is available for folks if they, in a pinch, need, interview clothing or a bus pass to get to an interview that they have set up, 3 days from now. We've used that in the past for things like steel-toed work boots for folks who need it on their first day of work, and they're not able to get that funding, from the larger funding sources in time. So that is something, that we, are sure to, try to close all the gaps that we can for our participants so that, they really are ready to get to whatever step they need to get to in their career search and their workforce development process. So that was really a quick kind of overview of the services that we provide to individuals, to the job seekers that are coming in to Goodwill and our participants. One more. We also make sure that we provide self-advocacy skills enrichment for our individuals with disabilities. I work with the group every single month where we talk about self-advocacy. It's something where, every month there's a different topic. We might talk about, disclosing our disability to an employer if we need an accommodation. Sometimes, we'll talk about anti-victimization skills, how to keep ourselves safe whenever, we're going to and from our job. The topics change monthly, but we are sure to, keep self-advocacy in the forefront of all of our minds. Again, because people with disabilities, they need to be armed with those advocacy skills, so they can go through their lives and their career path, with the best information as possible. Okay, so again, that's a quick little overview of the services that we provide for our people. We do also serve employers. So employers are our customers, just like individuals are our customers and clients as well. We have an entire department that is dedicated to employer engagement. The staff in our employer engagement department, they have a wealth of knowledge from, the business end of things. I know that our director, she came to Goodwill after years of, food service management experience. We've had individuals in our department who are coming from the human resources field, folks who are coming from CareerLink. So they bring with that, they bring that experience to Goodwill. And it's something that's very valuable. We love, to have lots of our soft and cuddly staff, in terms of human services. But it's also very important to have, a complementary piece of folks who are really coming from the business side of things. So their primary role really is to engage employers and maintain relationships with them. Our EED department, they maintain a business advisory council for Goodwill, just so that, we can make sure that we're keeping on pulse with, what the business world needs. And, we're training our folks the right way so that they are able to fill business needs out there once they're ready to search for jobs. And certainly, the individuals that we serve act as the pipeline of job candidates that our employer engagement staff can go out and showcase to the employers out there, and really, again, help to find those matches. And just like our digital skills and career service center, our employer engagement staff really are a wonderful resource to our employment specialists who are out there working with our individuals. I know that they really work as a team with our placement staff so that we're getting all the resources that we can available for the individuals that we are working with. So some of the business facing services that we provide to employers, accessibility services. I have in the past gone out to different businesses, done walkthroughs of their physical space to ensure that it's accessible for workers, customers, visitors who might have disabilities. But also, beyond the physical space, helping employers develop policies that can help individuals with disabilities or other needs really be included in that business's workforce. So that is a service that we do provide to employers. We do also outreach, education, and training. I have worked with businesses in the past to do disability awareness trainings with their staff, disability etiquette, or working with frontline supervisors and managers in interviewing and hiring people with disabilities. We also have something called the Profitability Toolkit that is available on our website. And this is geared toward businesses. And it's really just a comprehensive guide. It's a PDF that you can download, a comprehensive guide for businesses to ensure that they are as accessible as possible and meeting the needs of workforce individuals with disabilities. What's the best way? What are some of the best practices? What are some of the laws and legislation and regulations regarding disability employment practice? So that is a toolkit. Again, it's geared specifically to employers, but certainly anyone can download that from our website. And it's a pretty handy resource for folks. It's just, like I said, a wealth of knowledge. There are links to different government sites, community-based organizations that can really be helpful. Every year, we also host a Power of Work Awards. And this is really to appreciate and highlight the employers that we work with, and really encourage them that, disability hiring initiatives, are something that benefits everyone. So every year, the last couple of years certainly have, of course, have been virtual, but every year we do host a Power of Work Awards where employers that we've worked with in the past can win an award, whether it be that they've hired someone that we, have worked with, or that they have provided some sort of, experience with, maybe, a job shadow or a short-term training experience. So again, we make sure to do that because we want to really encourage businesses and employers out there to see the positivity, and the pros of hiring people who might have a disability. As I mentioned, employers are our customers. And so really our employer engagement department is the spearhead, of these relationships that we create with employers. And, the goal is for it to be a win-win situation. The business has a need, and we have people that can fill that need. And that's really, in its simplest form is really what it boils down to and what we think works so well. So we do have some partners that we work with that I want to highlight. Construction Junction is a construction salvage store in the east end of Pittsburgh. Basically, they take donated construction equipment. If someone is doing a remodel and they tear down, their doors or the tiles that they don't need anymore, they can donate them to Construction Junction, and then customers can walk in there and purchase whatever they need. So if someone's doing a home remodel and they want, paint or again, tiles on the cheap, instead of having to go to Home Depot or Lowe's, they can go to Construction Junction and purchase used construction equipment there. So we currently have a group of participants who is working there in a training capacity. Construction Junction years ago approached Goodwill and said, hey, you know what, we have a couple of tasks that our regular staff can just never get to because they're so busy with some other, with other tasks. Is there a way to create some sort of partnership so that, Goodwill's people can take that over? So that's what we did. There are a couple tasks at the Construction Junction site that our participants do. It is a training site. However, we have certainly have had our participants be hired as employees at Construction Junction because of that partnership. I didn't mention this before, but we do work with UPMC in a program called Project Search, which is a transition-aged program. So for high school aged youth, they can work at either UPMC Mercy, downtown Pittsburgh, or Passivant in the North Hills of Pittsburgh. And they work for a school year, learning different skills in the hospital. They have rotations where they experience things like, patient transport or environmental services. And, again, some of those jobs or some of those tasks that, in a hospital setting might, just kind of get overlooked because the nursing staff or whoever don't have the time to really dedicate to, getting those things done. So our students in the Project Search program go through those rotations. And again, several of our Project Search graduates have been hired by UPMC after, showcasing how well they've done and that they have been an asset to the UPMC's teams. Eaton Park is another big partner of ours. They serve as training facilities for folks who want to try out food service. They've hired many of our folks, and they really are very forward-thinking in their disability initiatives. They've had me come in to do some disability service trainings and that sort of thing for their staff. And it's really nice to see that an organization that large is really committed to hiring people with disabilities. In the past, we've also partnered with CVS to kick off our retail skills training program, which is, it's a program where individuals can come in and learn all the basics of retail. Both, for our Goodwill stores, but also, for places like CVS or, other retail locations. And CVS was a big partner in getting that kicked off and up and running. And then again, I didn't have it listed here, but Goodwill is, we are our own partner. Our retail training, our retail stores, they act as a training facility. But as I mentioned before, many times our participants have gotten hired, by those stores. Goodwill, we kind of pride ourselves on having a very fluid line between who is a client and who is an employee. We love to see that, the folks that we serve, end up becoming, employees right alongside us. So it's something that, we definitely value and something that we try our best to ensure happens. Almost right on time. That again was a pretty quick overview. Goodwill has a lot of different services and programs, but hopefully that was helpful to you to just kind of hear and get an idea of what is available and how we work with both individuals and employers. So I'm going to stop here and see if there's any questions.
Thank you so much, Adrian. There were a couple questions for you. First of all, is there a number or email address that people can reach you at that we can share in the chat box?
Absolutely. I will do that right now.
Oh,
And I will mention too, I'm sorry, Goodwill does also have a welcome center. Because we have so many different programs and services for so many different populations, Goodwill's welcome center kind of acts as, almost our triage.
Okay.
They are kind of the starting point. So what I'll do is I'll put my contact information in the chat box, but then also I'll be sure to put our website and our welcome centers information there as well.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Sure, there's definitely programs and services that don't relate, that I don't interact with as often. So if I don't know the question, I'll make sure.
Okay. And if anyone listening for some reason, misplaces the information after Adrian puts it in the chat box, please just reach out to us at Achieva. You'll have my contact information. We can get that information to you. But one of the questions was, how does one apply for the digital skills and digital skills enhancement classes?
Sure. So right now, registration is all online. And again, I'll throw the Goodwill's website up on the screen. So there should be a tab for, actually, you know what? Let me stop sharing my screen and I can show you right now. Hopefully this won't take up too much time. Okay. So hopefully our Goodwill website will be up here. And if you go, can you see that?
Yep, that's perfect.
Okay, programs and services, the big yellow button. And then community services, which is I think the last tab. Oh, hang on. Nope, sorry, the first tab, education and testing. My apologies.
No, that's okay.
Services, education and testing, and then you'll see a digital skills heading here. If you click on there, you can, this blue button right here will give you an online calendar of our upcoming classes and also the form to register. If for some reason, someone, again, is a digital skills class and people might be coming in with no experience, they are more than welcome to call this number here.
Okay.
To get us some assistance.
How about help in preparing a resume? Do you guys?
Yeah, so again, that would be through our Career Service Center.
Okay.
And I think I'm going to go to, I think this is the right place here. No, job search services. Okay. And again, everything is online. Contact information is all right here.
Are there any costs associated with these services, Adrian?
No.
No costs. Okay, great. And then do you have to go through OVR services through Goodwill? Do you have to go through OVR to get services through Goodwill?
Not all programs. There are some programs that Goodwill operates that, yes, they do need some sort of, funding from Goodwill or from OVR or, waiver funding.
Okay.
However, there are like this digital skills or career service center, they're open to anyone.
Okay, great. And lastly, do you know of any companies that are willing to host community-based instruction programs that would serve transition age students?
Ooh, that's a good question. Like I said, we do partner with, different organizations. I can't speak for the businesses themselves, but a number of them have posted our transition aged youth. We do have another program that I didn't talk about called Transition Works, which is for individuals with disabilities who are transition aged. And they can do a community-based experience out in the world. We've worked with, local coffee shops, the Pittsburgh Zoo, I think we've worked with in the past and maybe still do. Again, I'm probably not the best person to answer that. That does kind of get funneled in from our employer engagement department. But I do know that there are lots of big and small businesses that Goodwill works with that are, more than willing to host experiences for both youth and adults.
And our next presenters, Bill and Lowell from Achieva, might be able to answer that question. They might be touching on that as well. So, we'll see what they have to say if they know anything. But Adrian, that was a fantastic presentation. Thank you so much for your time and your knowledge and sharing your contact information. I'm sure you provided people with a lot of good information and a place to start. And since I'm on again, I'll just turn it over to Bill Frace and Lowell King. They're our colleagues here at Achieva. If you guys want to go ahead, you're on.
Lost Bill.
I'm not sure who's going first, if it's Lowell or Bill.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes.
Okay, because I just had a thing come up saying that Zoom quit on me. So
Oh,
that's,
geez.
yeah,
Nope, we can hear you.
that's a new one. So, okay, great. I don't know if it's gonna, okay, it doesn't seem to like my video for some reason. So I don't know what happened there. Anyway, so yeah, thanks everyone for sticking with us here. So we're going to be talking about effective models for employment. And I'll just introduce myself briefly. Bill Fraze, Assistant Director of Business Services, and I'm going to hand it over to Lowell now so that he can talk about what he's up to.
All right, thanks so much, Bill. So I'm Lowell King. I'm the Assistant Director for Achieva's Competitive Integrated Employment. I have been with Achieva for a little over 2.5 years. I'm a recent transplant to the Pittsburgh area. Been here with my family for about 3 years. I did want to mention, I know we have a limited amount of time today, so if there are any questions, I would be glad also to set up a time to take a call or email to be able to answer everybody's questions they may have, and take time to explore those. So I will also add my information at the end, and how best to contact me. First, I'd like to kind of introduce our competitive integrated employment team. I have the pleasure to work with a great group of people every day, beginning with our Vice President of Employment Supports, Eric Welsh, our Manager of our Competitive Integrated Employment Program, Leslie Beesom, whom I share kind of the day-to-day supervision of our program. Leslie is also engaged with our employment specialists on a daily basis, helping to provide guidance and support to that team. As far as our employment specialists, we have 3 lead employment specialists that provide guidance and mentoring to kind of regional teams of employment specialists, kind of a go-to for the team. We have 15 employment specialists that cover the areas of Allegheny, Beaver, and Westmoreland counties. It's a wonderful team. They're dedicated to helping people with disabilities to reach their employment goals, and can't say enough good things about our team. Just to go over some of our services, Bill, if you want to advance the slide. And also wanted to mention, our referral sources. We do work with the Office of Vocational Rehabilitation, or OVR, and the Office of Developmental Programs. And I know Mary Jo and Adrian had mentioned both of those in their presentations. And Mary Jo, thank you for providing that overview of OVR and ODP and their services. As far as our services, for individuals who are maybe first-time job seekers or might be looking to explore new opportunities, we would typically start with community-based work assessments or career assessments. Within this area, individuals are able to work with our employment specialists to explore areas of interest of employment. So, if somebody has identified certain areas they would like to explore and try out, we set up these opportunities by engaging some of our community partners. We work with a variety of business sectors to provide these opportunities where individuals can go onto job sites, try out jobs, and this provides a lot of valuable feedback, not only for the individuals that we support, but for our employment specialists as well. Gives us an opportunity to explore those interests, the talents and individual interests of those people that we work with. And once we work through the community-based assessments, the team develops kind of a review of the outcomes of those job trials. And typically we have anywhere between 3 to 5 different job trials, again, based on kind of interests of the individual that we're supporting. At the end, we work with the individual to set up a team meeting involving people that are close to and important to them to kind of discuss what the next steps are, based on the information we've gathered from those work assessments. And just to mention too, that during this time, our employment specialists can provide transportation to and from the assessment sites. I know this is important for a lot of folks that we support. Once we've completed those work assessments, had that team meeting, and kind of just, discuss what those next steps are, typically we would move into what we call job finding or development. As far as the job finding or development, this is a real exciting time. This is where we're taking that information that we've gathered from those work assessments and from working with the individual, and we're putting that into action to help find a good job match, not only for the individual we're supporting, but for the employer as well. Our team of employment specialists, they wear multiple hats. They're involved in the process right from the beginning and all the way through to the end. And we take a team approach, with our services, especially the job finding and development. We have a main employment specialist who's assigned to each case, and we also have a secondary. And this provides, an opportunity for, having multiple people involved in helping to find those jobs. If somebody would go on vacation, we have somebody who's familiar that can step in and, kind of take over that portion of the process. During the job finding and development, our employment specialists are working with the individual to contact employers, to fill out applications, to visit work sites, and ultimately kind of negotiating a match between the job seeker and the employer. And again, during this phase of the process, transportation can be provided by the employment specialist, to go visit employers, fill out applications, even help with, setting up interviews. Once we would find a good job match and the individual is presented an offer and they accept, we can then move on to the next phase, which is our job coaching and support. At this point, we are negotiating a start date, kind of setting up any onboarding and training that might be needed during that initial phase. And we're also helping individuals to learn those specific job tasks related to their position. And, we're there to support them during their shifts. And another kind of important and I think critical part of this process is working with the individual to identify natural supports. And the reason this is important is, as job coaches, we're not always going to be there forever to provide those supports. We do look to fade our services as individuals become more independent, more comfortable, and have identified those people at the work site that they can go to answer any questions they may have, or to help them, with any of their questions. And the fading is important because it also increases independence, and ultimately that's the end goal, is to have somebody who's comfortable in their position. It's a good fitting job, and they feel comfortable being able to complete that job on their own. Another one of our services called Discovery or Customized Employment. This is a process that utilizes a lot of what I just went over, but it's a very in-depth process for gathering information for someone who may have maybe more complex support needs. And it kind of takes a deeper dive into that assessment process where our employment specialists who have the specialized certification in discovery and customized employment will spend time with the individual they're working with at their home, in the community, kind of getting to know what's important to that individual, learning more about activities and events that might be important to the person. All of this is utilized to help get a better picture of what might go into a good job fit for the individual that we're working with. And as I mentioned, this is a kind of a more in-depth process, takes a little bit more time. And in the end, the employment specialist will put together a discovery profile, which chronicles all the information that they've gathered and is used as kind of a guide then for finding the right job and being able to best support the individual on that job. We also offer job mentoring. Job mentoring is typically provided off-site, but can also be provided on-site as well. And with job mentoring, typically we're just working through maybe specific work-related issues, helping to build or update a resume, working on interview skills, helping someone to set up transportation, maybe not familiar with the public bus lines or other options like Uber that they can use if they don't have their own transportation. We can also work on establishing those natural supports that I spoke about earlier. And also, talking with employers about any specific job accommodations that might be needed for the person to be successful in their job. Next, we would have our retention supports. where we work with individuals who are currently employed and may need assistance in maintaining that employment. There may be some things going on at the job. There could be new tasks. There could be new management. And, these are things that we've experienced, especially throughout the pandemic, where, people's job tasks may have changed, throughout the pandemic. If you were working at a restaurant, where you were maybe bussing tables and, cleaning tables. And during the pandemic, that part of the business was closed and that they were only doing takeout. So, somebody may have then transitioned to another job within that business. So that's where this service comes in and is beneficial, to the individuals that we support. Moving on to our pre-employment transition services, or PREATS as a lot of folks refer to it. And these services are available to transition age students beginning at age 14. As far as the services that we provide under the PREATS, we do provide individual and group job shadowing. With the individual and group job shadowing, it gives students an opportunity to observe and question employees doing specific jobs. So if a student is interested in a particular area, we can set up an opportunity for them to visit a job site, speak to individuals who are doing those specific jobs, and ask questions and get a feel for what the environment is like. And I think this is a really beneficial service. And just briefly, I have kind of what I thought was a really cool experience within the job shadowing. Early on, when we started providing this service, we worked with a student who had an interest in marine biology and nursing. And in doing some research, we were able to set up an opportunity for her to speak with a former marine researcher who lives in the area, who also, throughout his career being a marine researcher, had been a curator at the PPG Aquarium, and now owns his own small business doing aquarium maintenance and custom aquarium design. So it was a neat opportunity for her to experience a lot of, 3 different areas that might be available to her if she pursues this area of interest. And also from the nursing end, our manager, Leslie Beeson, had a person that she knows that's a nurse, and was able to set up an opportunity for her to shadow the nurse at the hospital, ask a lot of questions, really get a feel for what a day in the life of a nurse is like. And these types of services are just very unique, and I think provide a great service to our transition-aged youth. The other area that we work in is paid work experience. And we do this specifically with a partnership with Giant Eagle. And paid work experiences are an opportunity for, again, our transition age youth to work, in this particular case, at Giant Eagle in a paying job. We work with our business services and our Giant Eagle liaison to develop these opportunities. And our employment specialists help with some of that onboarding and that job coaching throughout the initial phases of the job. And what's really unique about this is that, even at the end of the experience, Giant Eagle is looking to continue employment with the students. So this is a great opportunity, not only for them to gain experience, but to have an ongoing part-time job. So again, a really nice experience for, for our students and transition age youth. Kind of went very quickly through that. Again, I know limited time for questions, so definitely feel free to reach out to me, and I'll be glad to set up a time to talk with you or communicate through email. And I will add that information. And right now I will pass the torch on to Bill Fraze, who will speak about our Achieva Business Services.
Thank you, Lowell, and thank you both. I am sorry that we were running out of time. Bill graciously agreed to go a little bit over. He's going to condense his presentation, but if people can stick around, Bill can go through his presentation and again, maybe answer any questions if there's anything. So thank you both.
All right, thanks, Patty. Thank you, Lowell. So yeah, Achieva Business Services. What we do is a different kind of model where we have disability employment professionals embedded within local employers in southwestern Pennsylvania, well, and actually in the state of Pennsylvania. So we have inclusion liaisons embedded within Giant Eagle in southwestern Pennsylvania, in Allegheny, Westmoreland, and Beaver County. And UPMC, we've got a liaison who can support individuals with disabilities who are interested in working at either of these organizations. Giant Eagle, as Lowell mentioned, we can support students who are interested in working at Giant Eagle and adults through the inclusion liaison model. They are the single point of contact for everything employment disability related. And then when it comes to UPMC in the state of Pennsylvania, our inclusion liaison can support people with employment in that organization. So what I'm going to do next is just talk a little bit about some of what the kinds of things inclusion liaisons will help folks out with. So we accept referrals from anywhere, anyone. Our services are completely free to people with disabilities, job seekers with disabilities. We can help folks connect to the funding that they need. If they need funding for supports, connecting them to supports, whether they're funded by other parties or whatever the case may be. Supporting people with their disclosure. When people are coming through our program, they're automatically disclosing that they have some kind of disability. But a lot of times it's helpful for job seekers to really learn the ins and outs of how to disclose disability and talk about possible accommodations. Our inclusion liaisons typically support people with the application process, with accommodations throughout that process, including alternative interview formats. A huge part of what they're doing is they are looking to match individual job seekers with disabilities to positions within their respective employers. That's a huge piece. And another big piece is that we're not just talking about placement assistance here. We're talking about job retention supports, where the inclusion liaison is available to the employer, to the new employee, to everyone involved at any point. They typically do regular check-ins with everyone who's been newly hired, but they're available at any point to support people with regard to job retention, maybe new accommodations or things like that. So and the thing is, our employers, they want to hire people with disabilities, Giant Eagle and UPMC in particular. And so these projects are meant to help people become hired in these organizations, but also to be retained over the long term for everyone's success that way. So I'm going to, it's pretty simple. You can reach out to us. The information is in the chat. You can email us or call us. And if you're interested in working with either of those organizations, again, in the southwestern Pennsylvania area for Giant Eagle, students and adults, just adults for UPMC throughout the state of Pennsylvania. So with that said, I'm going to go just to our contact information here, which again, this is in the chat. So this is the information for the services and supports that Lowell does through Achieva Competitive Integrated Employment. This is the contact information for Achieva Business Services. And I'm good to go on questions here.
I don't see anything just yet, Bill. Does anybody have any questions? Doesn't look like it, Bill. If anything comes up after the fact, or if any of you think of anything after today's presentation, please don't hesitate to reach out, to us here at Achieva. We'd be happy to forward your questions on to any of the presenters. At this time, I'd like to just thank you all again for attending today's webinar. It will be recorded and put on our website. Hopefully by the end of the week, we'll have this up. So please check back for more information on that. Also, if you have time, please visit our website, www.achievafamilytrust.org. You can find more information there about some of our upcoming webinars. You can register for our newsletter. You can learn more about the trust and the services that we provide. And, please, take a couple minutes to take a look at it. But again, thank you all for attending today. If there's anything we can do for you, please don't hesitate to reach out. And a big thank you to all of our presenters. I'm sure that you could each spend 2 hours just discussing your services as to what you provide. So I appreciate your time. I'm sorry we got crunched here a little bit at the end, but there's just so much good information out there. And we really are fortunate to have so much, in our community, so many good services to provide to individuals with disabilities. So thank you all.